A lot has been written about Columbus, from the idea that he was the first Italian American to the notion that he was a progenitor of a continental genocide. A crucial aspect of his biography is generally missed. A primary force behind Columbus's Atlantic crossings was his and other Europeans' fears of and conflict with Islam. This shaped how Europeans engaged with the New World and its native peoples for centuries and continues to shape how today's Americans and Europeans understand the world. Columbus was born into Europe's anti-Islamic mindset in 1451, just 2 years before the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror took Constantinople from the Byzantine Empire. More than any other event, this conquest shaped the contours of Columbus's and his generation's geopolitical life with constant calls for European crusades against Muslim advances. Columbus's hometown, Genoa, was a magnet for crusaders owing to the strong presence of the Knights of St. John in the city, who offered free housing and medical care to crusaders. Genoa lost to the Ottomans some of the colonies it had held in the eastern Black Sea and Mediterranean, and Columbus no doubt grew up hearing heroic crusader tales of distant lands and infidel enemies. In the San Lorenzo Cathedral, where Columbus attended Mass, he would have seen treasures supposedly captured from Jerusalem during earlier crusades. As a child, he also read the stories of Marco Polo, who told of the existence of a wealthy and powerful Grand Khan somewhere in a far-off east. According to Polo, this Grand Khan was not only sympathetic to Christianity, but might even convert himself, a tantalizing possibility that enlivened European minds with the idea that Christian powers might be able to surround the Muslim Middle East. Upon becoming a teenager, Columbus took to the Mediterranean as a sailor's apprentice. Some of his first maritime voyages brought him face to face with the awesome power of the Ottomans in the Aegean Sea and other Muslim states in North Africa. He later sailed down the coast of West Africa, where the region's powerful Muslim kingdoms impressed upon him that Islam was everywhere, surrounding Christendom. When Columbus returned to Europe, he joined Spain's fight against the Muslims in the south of the Iberian Peninsula, 6 months before he set off across the Atlantic. Defeating the Muslim kingdoms in the south of Spain was thought to be the start of Europe rolling back Muslim power, first in the Mediterranean and then the rest of the world. Columbus's Spanish patrons sent him off with this in mind. At heart then, Columbus was very much a crusader. Throughout his life, first reading and hearing about, and then battling against Muslims, he felt the burden of holy war deep in his soul. He bobbed westward with the formal mission of finding a trade route to the Grand Khan of the East that would circumvent the need to go through Muslim territories. On the high seas, though, his mind was occupied by neither a secular passion for discovery nor a calculating commercial vision. More than anything else, he sailed to the Americas imbued with a Christian zeal. This centrality of Islam to Columbus's life explains one of the strangest and least acknowledged aspects of the Atlantic voyages. When Columbus arrived in the Caribbean, he saw, or thought he saw, Islam there too, where it so clearly did not exist. For example, he called the weapons of the indigenous Taínos alfanjes, a Spanish word derived from the Arabic for a curved metal scimitar inscribed with Quranic verses that was commonly used by Muslim soldiers in battle. Columbus himself tells us that the Taíno have no iron, and of course knew nothing of the Quran, but he likens them to Muslim soldiers he knew from back home. Later, when he first saw the scarves of a group of indigenous women, he thought they were related through trade or some other form of Eurasian contact to Moorish sashes. Such stated equivalences between Islam and Native America would continue long after Columbus as Europeans continued to colonize the Americas. How are we to explain something so odd? The answer lies in Columbus's and Europe's long history of crusading against Islam. The crucible of centuries of these religious and territorial wars, and the increasing encroachment of the Ottomans and other Muslims in the years after 1453, forged the notion of Islam as an enemy in the minds of Columbus and the thousands of other Europeans who fought Muslims in the Old World and then American Indians in the New one. For all their lives, these men had learned that Muslims were their foremost enemies, In their mind's eye, an enemy conjured up the image of a non-white Muslim. Europeans fell back on this framework to understand the new enemies they faced in the Americas, indigenous peoples. Europeans thought of Muslims and Native Americans as somehow linked on a chain of continuity that today seems chimerical. This largely forgotten history matters. An anti-Islamic worldview was the mold that helped cast the European understanding of race and ethnicity in the Americas, as well as the concept of warfare in the Western Hemisphere. It therefore needs to be a part of any understanding of the history of the Americas and, regrettably, of Native American history also. In his failed search for Asia and the Grand Khan of the East, Columbus unwittingly brought Islam and Native America together through European colonialism. Although born of violence and destruction, these connections between seemingly disparate yet bound cultures helped to lay the groundwork for richer views of the past, new forms of solidarity, and more nuanced thinking and action in the present. This video is based on the book God's Shadow, Sultan Selim, His Ottoman Empire, and the Making of the Modern World by Mikhail, Professor of History at Yale University.
If you want to see more content like this, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss any new videos.